It is time to take a deep dive into the young talent on this basketball roster and the young talent that's coming in. We got a scout jumping on today to talk about 26 class, 27 class, and some of the international prospects. I'm excited for this one on Wisconsin.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Really do appreciate you being here, for making this one of your first listens, for being an everydayer. Today's episode brought to you by our good friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Today's episode, we are diving into the prospects coming to Madison. Kinzinger, Garlock, Fenderson, the New Zealand boys, Bieliauskas, and we got a great guest making his second appearance on the show, Guy. Last time we talked, man, we were talking about John Tonje as the third or fourth option on the Badgers. That was a fun show.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone could have predicted the jump that he made, but yeah, excited for him to hopefully get drafted tonight. First Badger player since Johnny Davis, I think. So,
yeah, and he definitely deserves it, right? He definitely earned his way to that. Guy, really quick, you're a scout, you work camps, you do all sorts of stuff. You've been an ambassador for Hoops internationally. Talk a little bit about what you got going on and kind of where your journey is right now.
Yeah, I just love basketball. Just try to do everything I can to stay around it. But I write and scout for Made Hoops now. And then I also founded our African scouting consultancy, Diaspora Drop. So kind of have my hands in a lot of different things. And I will actually be coaching at Badger Camp here this weekend too. So really looking forward to that and getting back kind of on the court.
Dude, absolutely love it. And I love being able to, I'm humbled, quite frankly, to be able to get people that are smarter than me on the show that can provide different perspectives and unique perspectives. And it's definitely what Guy is able to do here. And we're going to go through basically the younger crop of players, the ones that are just coming on campus and the ones that are coming up in the future. Let's start with Zach Kinziger, 4-star in-state player, 6'2", 6'3", shooting guard, combo guard a little bit, actually. What did you see when you turned his film on?
Yeah, for sure. Zach, he's one of these players, I think when you just see him right away, he may not necessarily pass the eye test just because he's a little bit more slight, but he more than makes up for it with just his skill and his pedigree. You got to think about it. He comes from just a very a great program in De Pere, but his shooting ability is just next level. He's probably one of the best shooters in his class, in the nation. I think he's proved it on that level too, just having played Nike EYBL and going up against some of the best guys and really holding his own. He was a Mr. Basketball finalist for a reason. Deceptive finisher, I think. I think there's room for him to get much stronger also. But from a skill standpoint and just a mentality standpoint, I think he's ready to go.
Let me ask you this. Because I coached a little bit, like not a ton, but one of the things I always looked for with shooting is the ability to be on balance and the ability to be repeatable. Like I think people at times focus a little too much on the perfect form. I just want something that's consistent, repeatable, and mostly on balance. And he just checks all those boxes as a shooter. What do you see with the jump shot and the mechanics?
Exactly, yeah. All the above. I think it's very repeatable, and it looks the same every single time. It's nice and compact. Like you said, the balance is great. I love the base that he has when he's shooting. And it's a very light, effortless shot too, which helps him with his range also. So it's a beautiful shot. I love to watch him shoot. So
yeah, and you look at the Badgers, the way the Badgers played, right? The way they've opened it up under guard, this just feels like another fit where Greg Gard and his staff for the last couple of years, and we talked about it a couple of years ago, they really started prioritizing shooting with their stretch forwards, their guards. This feels like kind of a seamless fit for the Badgers to me.
Absolutely. He feels like the type of guard who just fits right into that Badger mold, just in all areas. He's a coach's son, so he really knows how to play. You see that feel for the game. And just like you said, with the shooting, just being able to spread the floor, I think just in Wisconsin's system and just the way basketball is in general now, it's just ultra important, the most important skill. So yeah, he's got what it takes, if all things fall correctly, to really carve out a nice career here. And he just strikes me as the type of kid who we could see in a Badger uniform for years. I know it's a different context that guys are playing in now, just with the transfer portal and everything, but he strikes me as the type of kid who could turn into something very special for Wisconsin.
Let me ask you this: watching film, and again, it's so early in these players' careers. You and I just talked about Tanjay and the way he was able to surprise several years into his college career. So projecting high schoolers is always difficult. But when you watch film, is there anything you look at and you're like, man, I'm not sure about that, or I would love to see a little bit more of that?
Mm-hmm. For him specifically, I think the biggest thing is just the strength. Obviously, the Big Ten, it's a physical league. It's one of the biggest and deepest leagues. So I think just making sure he has the strength to make sure he doesn't wear down over the course of a season would be very important for him. And once he unlocks that physical aspect, the sky is honestly the limit for him. I know he had been working on just trying to get as athletic as possible. So I have no doubts about his work ethic.
Yeah, I've seen him in person a couple times. Really happy to be able to do that. I love the intangibles. You mentioned coach's son. Like when you watch somebody in a game, like live, and you know this because you do a ton of stuff with players live, you see things you don't see on film. You see him running around screens a certain way, pointing defensively, sprinting back, cheering on the bench. Like all those intangibles, I think, are there for him. I really love him as a prospect. Let's move to the next guy. Let's talk to the other in-state player, Will Garlock. Let me throw his film up here as well. Now we're talking 7 foot, 250, big frame, pretty edge up for his size. What do you see when you see him on film?
Yeah, for sure. Will, first of all, it's nice to see a local recruit. I feel like we don't see that as often as we would like to from UW, but great to see a kid from Middleton coming over to UW. Like you said, just a big body. He has, at that size, the chance to become your prototypical Wisconsin big man. And there was a clip there of him slinging a pass full court. That's one of the more impressive things of his game that I like to see. He catches it in the post, and before even making a move right away, he might take a peek, see if he's got any cutters, anyone open, and he hits guys in stride, hits them right in their pocket. So yeah, I really love his passing ability, and just he's a beast down low.
Dude, I love that you brought that up because another player that I was able to catch live a couple times. The first thing, and I remember writing it down in my notes, just the passing acumen. He had some turnovers, and sometimes the players who see the court pretty well, they take some risks they probably shouldn't take, and you learn from that. But his passing acumen as a big, I thought it was really impressive. For me, the question was kind of the rest of the offensive skill package, and you see flashes of the jumper, right? You see the ability to finish at the rim, a little bit more of a lob threat than some of the Badger guys they've had recently. But I think to me, that's the biggest question is the overall offensive skill package.
Yeah, no, I totally see what you're saying there. I think that he will be able to shoot it. I would like for him to focus more on some of the foundational pieces of being a big man. I think he has some growing up to do, both physically and just mindset wise. Just having gone to see him play a few times, I know he struggled with injury and things like that, but I think there were a few times where other opposing teams were able to figure him out, whether it was sending an extra guy or getting him in foul trouble. So just him figuring out how he can still be effective, even if he's not scoring the ball, getting a bunch of assists or whatever it may be. I think that'll be huge for him.
Yeah, I thought consistency at times was a little lacking for his skill set. There were moments where I felt like he should have dominated a little bit more. And I think that's potentially a little unfair because he was coming off injury, because he maybe wasn't always on the most complete team. But I definitely agree with you there. By the way, we just saw a clip. It was a couple seconds ago. I'm not going to rewind it because I'll miss it. But took the dribble with his right hand in movement, found a shooter, one-handed pass open. Like that's rare for a high school big man at that size. How often do you see big men, high school, state of Wisconsin with that type of passing ability?
Not often. So just happy that he's going to be wearing red and white next year, honestly, because passing is not, it's a harder skill to teach. So the fact that he has it so young means that, there's potential for him to expand on that even more. And just, we talked about the way the game is going, and just having a big who can pass in this day and age, and especially for Wisconsin systems, I think is super important.
We're going to take a quick break here. Again, thrilled to have just an incredible guest on today. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and talk about the potential of seeing these guys year one, plus get into Alexis Belookus coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show. And as always, a quick second to say thank you for tuning in. Today's episode brought to you by our great friends over at Gametime. Gametime is the incredible spot to get all your tickets. And if you want to see these guys in the Kohl Center this year, let's go to Gametime and you can see all your favorite Badgers. I got Nick Boyd on the TV back there. Love him. You're going to want to get tickets to see Mr. Boyd this year. I promise you that. All that can be found on Gametime, plus concerts, theaters, musical, like whatever you want. It's all on Gametime. Flash deal, so you get better prices as the event gets closer. You don't have to plan months in advance, plus pictures of the seat before you sit down. It is absolutely incredible. Get rid of the stress and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create the account, reading code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, let's jump back into this. I want to throw this question to you, man, because I said I put it in our Discord. Hey, I'm hoping to get Gio back on the show. Do you have any questions? And the first one here kind of relates exactly to what we were talking about with Kins and Garlock. Do you think that they're going to be able to play this year?
Yeah. I honestly see more of a path for Kinzinger playing this year than Garlock. I think just with how physical the Big Ten can be and big men within the Big Ten, I think he might need some time to kind of get physically ready. We talked about Kinzinger might need to get stronger as well, but I think some of his other skills will be able to carry him on the perimeter some more. Either way, I think it is a slightly more uphill battle for either of these freshmen to crack the lineup.
Yeah, and partial of that is because we're going to talk about the next guy, Alexis Bieliauskas, which I think is how you pronounce his name. I know you had some conversations with the Lithuanian coach or that program. What did you learn about his game and potentially his fit this year for the Badgers?
Yeah, I think the Badgers have done a great job recruiting guys who fit their program. He is a guy who he's not super flashy. He's not super athletic. He's not going to be tearing down rims, jumping over people, but he's very effective. He'll hold his own in the post. I think he finds angles really well. And he comes from that Lithuanian system. I think when it comes to just like the technical skill aspect, Lithuania is typically right up there with Serbia as far as laying that foundation for their youth. So I fully expect him to be able to come in and do the basics, pass, dribble, shoot. But yeah, he played for a storied program in Žalgiris in Lithuania, one of the top teams there. He played for their youth team, who also competes in Lithuania's second division. And he was a huge reason for them winning third place in that league against grown men. So nothing to sneeze at. And he's also gotten some minutes with the senior club. So I think the other big thing with him is he's improved a lot as a shooter. So on very good volume, he made quite a few shots from deep. So I think there's a lot to look forward to with him. In fact, the scout who I was speaking with, he's Lithuanian, and he said that given the right opportunity, he thinks that Alexis could be one of the most underrated international signings in D1.
Interesting. So do you see him, and this is another question we had, this is from Ehoff, do you see him as more of a 4 or a 5?
I think he has potential to play both. For me right now, more of a 4. And again, I spoke to his shooting, so that might be a skill that really helps him when he goes down to the 4. But I don't think that the door is closed on either position.
And this is a player, I mean, you mentioned kind of where he came from and where he's played. Where does that compare if you have to compare it to really good high school programs in America?
Yeah. I would say that's a great question. It's hard to compare just, I think, between countries in Europe in general. So comparing to the US is a little tough, but I would say some of the top like prep school leagues, that type of thing, not from an athletic standpoint necessarily, but more of like a knowing the game and skill wise. Again, they're playing against grown men. So these are guys who have already been through the high school and college system and things like that. So it's not a small deal.
And the second part of this question here, and I don't know how much you can speak to this, but Ehoff just asks anything you hear about Wisconsin in the international circles. They've won some battles in New Zealand. Obviously, we're talking about Bieliauskas here. What's your general feel for their international approach and how they're received?
Yeah, Wisconsin has been very strategic in who they go after and who they don't. I think they will give looks to certain guys and might throw a number out there, but ultimately the guys who they really want, they are pursuing. Yeah, I think internationally they're pretty respected, and then you see some of the success that they're getting, some of the international recruits who are coming in too. Yeah, they're doing a great job recruiting fit-wise. And just to also touch on that, I think with Alexis too, you see at first it didn't click for me, but you see possibly Kirk Penny's fingerprints on that one. I haven't confirmed it, but he's a legend and at Žalgiris, actually. That's one of the former teams that he played with too. So it would be nice having that connection there too.
That's a really interesting thing. That's awesome that you brought that up. I didn't even connect that because we're going to get into New Zealand next, which is also, we're talking Kirk Penny. And you got to think there's just additional insight on these players when you're talking about a guy who's played there or he's from there. I think that's a great little bit of context there. And let's get into New Zealand. Let's talk Hayden Jones first, and we'll get into Jackson Ball. What do you think of Hayden Jones watching him a year ahead of Jackson Ball? Pretty good size, the ability to shoot, move somewhat. What do you think of Hayden Jones?
Yeah, no, I like Hayden. I like Hayden a lot. I think his just positional versatility is really good. He can play any of the perimeter positions. I think he started out playing 2 and 3 and has been playing a little bit more 1 now. But he's a guy, he can shoot. His first instinct isn't to pull up from 3, but he can shoot from 3. I think he likes to attack the rim. He likes that little mid-range turnaround jumper. I like that, and his aggression and just the fact that he's unflappable. Nothing really phases him. Again, we talked about this with Zach, but he's another coach's son. And just it shows, from my understanding, his dad pushed him pretty hard, and he always rose to the occasion, and he likes to be pushed. You can tell too. I think he's going to have no problem adjusting to Wisconsin's system. He's used to playing in a similar system, and he's been the guy before, but I don't think he'll have any issue adjusting.
There's a lot of thoughts when you talk about what position someone's playing. It's less about where you're offensively and more about who you guard, right? Like what's your defensive position? Where does he fit defensively? Because I had him on the show. I really liked him, by the way. Really liked talking to him. But the one thing he said about defense, he was kind of lukewarm about it. Like he was. I was like, oh boy, that's good. Good luck with that with Greg guarding the Badgers. So where do you think he fits defensively?
Yeah, that's really funny that was how he came on, because I was just speaking with his national team coach, Darren Larson, and he was talking about how good of a defender he is and that people kind of underrate him. They come out and see him and think they can go at him a little bit, but I think guarding the 2 or the 3, he has no problem doing at 6'6", 6'7". But yeah, he has good enough foot speed to stay in front and contain and everything. So I'm sure he'll learn to love defense here.
He's going to have to, but yeah, it was a funny interview and I really liked him. Like he talked a lot about his offensive game and the fit with the Badgers. And let's finish up there with Jones. Is he, I think, a bit of I would call it the lazy perception, but I only say lazy because we just don't know a lot about players coming up in New Zealand. There's not a ton of film. We don't get to see them as much in person. I think the general perception of him is he's kind of a floor spacer who may not have the highest ceiling in terms of also being able to play make and beat people off the bounce. Is that perception incorrect, do you think? Or what do you think his offensive ceiling is?
Yeah. I think he can space the floor. I could see an outcome where he turns into kind of just a secondary playmaker type, who's able to just off the second side, just create for himself and others. He likes to get in the paint. He likes to get in the mix too. So I think there's so many outcomes. He's so versatile that sky should be the limit for him, just depending on opportunity again. But yeah, very excited about him offensively.
Let's talk about Jackson Ball. So a year behind Hayden, a player that's generated, I would say, quite a bit of buzz. Somebody who I think was a pretty good get for the Badgers. Maybe a little bit more of a lead guard than Hayden, but a similar skill set in some ways. What do you think of Jackson Ball in his game?
Yeah. I'm very excited about Jackson. I think, quite frankly, he was probably a steal for Wisconsin. again, when I was talking to the New Zealand national team coach, he floated an interesting idea to me that Jackson is kind of an evolution of Kirk Penny. Just when you talk about the shooting ability, but then you also add to Jackson his ability to get to his spots off the dribble. I love watching him play, just seeing the decisions that he makes, both in space and in close quarters, and just being able to react to what the defense throws at him. He's just a very fun player to watch. Unexpectedly quick, has some passing ability too. So I think he's another very high ceiling, exciting 2026 guy.
Do you think he's potential? See, to me, a big part of the allure of him, and I don't want to put labels on anybody at this age, but he feels like potentially a jumbo point guard who can shoot, but bully people, but handle the ball, get in the paint, cause collapse, and then kick it out. I think that's the vision potentially for him. Does he fit that mold?
Yeah, I think offensively, he is able to play either position. I think he is also more athletic than you might think. Again, his coach was telling me how he's caught people sleeping, and he might catch a few bodies here and there. But offensively, I have no issues with him playing one or the two. I think the thing with him that's going to be the issue again is defensively. Not necessarily an issue, but just something to monitor. Just because stepping up to this level, the guards are so much more athletic, especially when you're looking at point guards. So just being able to stay in front of guys might be the one area of concern if he's going to play some point guard. But yeah, I think overall he might make up for it with his offensive ability.
Dude, love it. We're going to take one more quick break, come back and talk about one of the athletic pieces that is coming into this class, or coming into the Badgers a year from now, LaTrevion Fenderson. We're going to talk about him, his game, and his potential fit in the Big Ten. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show, and a quick second, as always, to say thank you for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. Really do appreciate you. All right, man. Let's talk LaTrevion Fenderson. Had him on the show as well. I love the physical nature of his game, the ability to, at that age, to be physical, to get in the paint, to create separation, to potentially score at 3 levels. What do you see about his game when you catch some film there?
Yeah, LaTrevion Fenderson. I love his approach to the game. I think, like you said, he's physical, but then he's also very skilled. He's aggressive, but he makes the right plays. One thing about him, I talked about his approach. He has a very professional approach to the game, approach to improvement and development. A guy who used to give me fits in my playing days, Nimrod Hilliard, he is a trainer now, and he's trained a few current and former Badgers. But he recently had a session with Fendi, and he was very impressed by him because Nim always comes early to workouts. And Fendi beat him to the gym so that he could make sure he had his stretching and warm-up routine in and everything to make sure that he could maximize the workout. So I think just that is just one story that shows just his professional approach. I think you also see it with like his decision to go play at DME St. John's, even though he already had a high major offer locked up. I think just recognizing like, hey, if I want to step onto campus and have a chance to play right away, I need to play against some really, really good competition beforehand. So just his approach, going along with the things we talked about with just the skill of being able to score at 3 levels and the athleticism, I think he's another very electric piece of the 2026 class.
Where does he project position-wise? And I hate to, it's not as big a deal anymore, but I'm just curious when you start to put these pieces together. And if you project out a Hayden Jones and a Jackson Ball and a Fenderson and a Kinzinger, where does Fenderson maybe fit into that mix?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's tough projecting positions because today is more positionless than ever before. I mean, we saw with John Blackwell easily sliding over from one perimeter position to the next. I think you might be able to see something similar with Fendi and Jackson, just because they are so skilled. They're able to play all over the court, athletic enough to be on both positions there. I think he can guard either of those positions as well. So yeah, it's hard to nail down just one position for him.
I love that you brought up Blackwell, by the way, because when I watch Fenderson, I feel like there's shades of Blackwell in his game. Am I crazy? Do you see that?
I don't think you're crazy. I see the same thing, with probably a little bit tighter handle, things like that, more repeatable jump shot like we talked about earlier. So yeah, I see that a lot. It all depends on just how it fits in once he gets here.
What's the one thing you're looking for? And listen, he's still young, and all these players are. What's the one thing you're looking for where, man, it's going to unlock when he takes this next step for Fenderson?
Yeah, I think just being even quicker with his reads, once he's able to do that and the game kind of slows down for him even more, I think his game will really unlock. He'll really be able to flourish. But the path he's on right now is great. It's great.
Yeah, let's wrap up here. I accidentally removed you from the studio. I meant to remove Fenderson. I promise. All right, let's wrap up here, man. Again, really do appreciate it. Took a deep dive on all these guys. Big picture on the Badgers right now. You saw last year. How impressed were you with the adjustments that Greg Gard has made as a coach to embrace this new system with Kirk Penny? And where is that going this year potentially? I mean, really scratch the surface, but where are you at right now with this team?
Yeah, this past season was huge for them. I think just expectations were low across the board, I think. And the fact that they were able to not only outplay those expectations, but do it in a way that it wasn't fluky. I think it helped both players who are already on the roster. It helped them in the eyes of recruits too. So just couple that with like the way they attack recruiting now and how strategic they are with it. I think they're in a really great place. They have some very exciting commits here in obviously this class coming in, but then you look forward to the 2026 class. So yeah, I think they're in a very good spot, especially just considering like with NIL and everything. Wisconsin typically isn't a school that is going to pay a huge number to guys. So just being able to make those strides on the court itself and with recruits has been huge.
I love it. Gigo, where can people find what you got going on? Where can they follow you?
Yeah. So I'm on Twitter. I tweet at my first and last name, Gijo Songolo. If you just search me, you'll find me there. I talk about African prospects at diasporadrop.substack.com. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Man, I love it. Have a great time at camp coming up this week with the Badgers, and then I'll let you go so we can go watch the draft. See if Tanjay slips into the first round or if he's a second rounder tomorrow. Either way, Gijo, man, thank you so much for jumping on again. Humbled and appreciative of your time for sure.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me, Ryan.
Absolutely. And for everyone tuning in on Wisconsin, and we will definitely talk tomorrow.